This conference will now be recorded.
So thanks a lot for your patience in waiting till now. So yeah, a very good morning to all the speakers, supporting associations, students, and delegates present virtually with us today. Myself, Jessica Reeves, Conference Secretariat at Coalesce Research Group LLC. Even during this pandemic, it gives me an immense pleasure to welcome you all to join us virtually at the webinar organized by Coalesce Research Group. Thank you all for making up your time for us here. Before we could start the session for day one today, I would I would be very glad to convey a few words about Coalesce Research Group. Coalesce Research Group is an USA-based emerging open access publisher and international conference event organizer which ought to serve the scientific community by serving the high-quality genuine research work from eminent scientists, professors, scientific research communities in all fields of medicine, clinical, life science, engineering, and technology to the research scholars, students, libraries, educational institutions, research center, and industries with the aim of enhance your research in the respective fields. Recently, we have also started our own platform for open access peer-reviewed scholarly literature where all the content is freely available without any charge to the reader. We aim to share the new recent advances through scientific publications, which will help in minimizing the borders and contributing the use of research work of eminent authors, scientists, researchers, research scholars, students, etc., across a broad spectrum of medical, clinical, pharma, and engineering scientific disciplines and subspecialties to promote the ideas which will guide the development and facilitate the use of scientific information and ensure its quality, and it also will be connecting link between the researchers and scientific community. We are committed to ensuring that our journals are disseminated worldwide so that the researchers are able to access our content whenever and wherever they need it. So anyways, we'll all send you an email with all the details of the journals that we are hosting after the commencement of the webinar, and we'll be very glad if any of our speakers or associates will be interested in publishing their research works with us in our inaugural issue. So finally, we thank each and every one of you, the participants at this conference, and we hope you enjoy the conference and your participation will definitely contribute to a new collaborations and research initiatives. Now, yeah, let's start with our today's session. From Dr. Huang Wei Ling, from Medical Acupuncture and Pain Management Clinic from Brazil. So, Dr. Ling, are you ready for the presentation?
Yes, I'm ready.
Yeah. So, doctor, please do click on the screen. Just a moment. We have your two connections. So, which one of that will be using? Like, so I have made you the presenter. Please click on the screen button so that you'll be able to share your screen.
Can you allow me? I have two there. And can you allow me to present at the Huawei Lin's another name of mine because
Okay.
I'm with the computer and with my iPhone.
Yeah, I've done that.
Okay, thank you.
Oh yeah, the screen is actually visible to us. So you will actually find the GoTo Meetings icons. So you can just click on the three arrow marks or the dots that is present and it will vanish.
Uh, you cannot see the PowerPoint? Can you see my presentation?
Yeah,
Yes? Okay.
no. Yeah, now it's visible. Now your
No?
presentation is visible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone. My name is Wan Weiling. I'm a medical doctor from Brazil. I'm infectious disease specialist, but I have 5 more specialties. I would like to thank the organizing committee to inviting me to this conference to share 3 studies, 2 studies I will present today and 1 tomorrow. The first study I will present today is entitled, "It is possible to treat community-acquired and nosocomial infections with the same method and without the use of antibiotics." Around the world, according to World Health Organization, 12% of deaths are associated with the infectious disease, and in Brazil, 100,000 people die every year due to nosocomial infection. And the increase of death is associated with nosocomial infections, according to Western medicine, is usually associated with the resistance of bacteria to the antibiotics. And in the hospital environment, it's harder for bacteria to survive. As a natural response, the bacteria is evolving and getting stronger. And the treatment I perform in the 4 case, I will present in this study 4 case reports. And I'm proposing a question. Are multi-resistant bacteria the only reason of death is due to nosocomial infections? I would like to let this question linger and let you make your own conclusion throughout the presentation. Today in my presentation, I will be following Hippocrates' quotes that said that it's important to consider other ancient medical traditions prior to the knowledge we have nowadays. So I will explain some reasoning made by traditional Chinese medicine in the treatment of nosocomial and community-acquired infections. The treatment performed in this case study I will present today was based on an idea I had during the treatment of one specific patient I treated in 2006. First, I would like to say how this idea began, and this story I will tell you now could reveal a new era in the treatment of infectious disease. It all started in 2006 when I received in my clinic an Afro-descendant patient, about 70-year-old, who came up with a symptom of pain in both legs for about 6 months, and he was using anti-inflammatory drugs without any improvement. And this patient reported feeling cold in the lower limbs, had normal daily bowel movement and did not present sweating and had no dry mouth or itching in the body. And also he had no other symptoms. These informations are very important in the TCM diagnosis, and the physical examination was apparently normal. According to traditional Chinese medicine, he was diagnosed with kidney iron deficiency, as he used it to feel colder in the lower parts of the body, in the legs. And the patient was indicated to receive acupuncture twice a week during 10 sessions, and he improved for his condition and returned 1 month after the last sessions to be reevaluated. When he reported that he had gone to his ophthalmologist and that the doctor was surprised about his intraocular pressure, the patient had not reported me he had glaucoma and was receiving treatment for his eye for about 40 years. And the pressure levels of his eyes would never low, always appearing as above 40 mmHg, and for the first time in his life, the pressure reduced to 17 mmHg. And the ophthalmologist asked the patient what he had done differently since his last consultation. And the patient revealed that the only different procedure he had done was acupuncture. When I started the acupuncture treatment, I was not aware of the patient's glaucoma. However, I was treating the energy imbalances responsible for the pain in the legs. Here in this tree, you can see that the leaves are the symptoms presented by the patient, and Western medicine treatment is on the leaf. They are treating the symptom that is the leg pain or high intraocular pressure. But what I did was the treatment in the roots that are the energy imbalances and not only the symptoms the patient. And when we treated the root, all the patient's symptoms will improve at the same time. And the leaves and the branches are the visible part of the object of study and practice in the Western medical profession because of the curriculum offered in the medical schools around the world. The focus is to treat each leaf in its specialty. In the case of glaucoma patients, the health issues were a reflection of the imbalances he had on the root of this tree, that are the energy imbalances. And this idea can also justify why the patient was not responding well to the treatment he was receiving for his glaucoma or for the pain in the legs, because the medication he was receiving, the anti-inflammatory medication, was only harming even more the energy imbalances in the root of this tree. And therefore, the treatment of the patient's energy imbalances lead to the improvement of many other symptoms and other disease, which I was not aware when the treatment began. And I know the concepts of energy may be difficult to understand, but I will be more clearly explained throughout this presentation. As I had a great success in the treatment of this patient with pain in the legs and glaucoma, I decided to present this case at the Acupuncture Association of Medical Acupuncture Conference in Baltimore, United States in 2007. And from this study, I developed several more studies in the most varied specialties, all involving the root treatment of the problem, which is the body's energy imbalances and not only the symptoms. And after this case, I started as a researcher, firstly supported by the University of São Paulo in Ribeirão Preto, Brazil, in the ophthalmology department in the glaucoma session, to demonstrate that the treatment of the energy imbalances can cause a decrease in the intraocular pressure of glaucoma patients. And this case was also presented at the Society Acupuncture Research Congress, which took place in Boston in the Harvard University, United States in 2015, entitled Acupuncture Viewed Holistically Can Treat All the Patient's Disease Simultaneously. Usually the doctor that practices acupuncture tends to treat the patient's symptoms in the same reasoning used by the Western medicine. Therefore, not all the acupuncture treatments will have the same results too. However, when understanding the perspective of traditional Chinese medicine and using it with the purpose of treating the root of the problem, acupuncture can treat all different pathologies and disease simultaneously, since it focuses on the root, not only the symptoms, but the root of the problem. And in Brazil, acupuncture is considered a medical specialty since 1995. So today, I'm here to correlate the treatment of community and nosocomial infections. My goal is to propose the following question. Can we treat community and hospital infections with the same method used in the case of the pain, the leg pain and the glaucoma, with the same method and without the use of antibiotics? Therefore, it was my thesis today. I'm here today to prove or dismiss these hypotheses. This study proposed that to treat community and nosocomial infections using the same reasoning I used to treat this patient of glaucoma presented to you now. And to achieve this goal, I'm bringing 2 cases of community infections and 2 cases of nosocomial infections. According to Western medicine, a community bacterial infection is usually treated with common antibiotics. And nosocomial infections, however, are mainly caused by multi-resistant bacteria, and the use of antibiotics of last generation is often required. But before I start the presentation of the 4-case report, I would like you to understand only one general idea of traditional Chinese medicine. There are 4 types of energy inside the body that are yin, yang, qi, and blood. And when there are deficiency in one or a combination of deficiency of these 4 energies, there are formation of heat retention. That is the 50 energy imbalances generated when there are some energy deficiencies between these 4 energies. And the formation of heat retention is the energy imbalances leading to the inflammatory process or infectious process in TCM. And that is why when we balance this energy, this heat retention will reduce or will disappear completely, and the patient could cure or improve the symptoms that they are having in the infectious process. Now I will present the first case report of a community infection. Is a case of recurrent furunculosis of a 16 years old male patient. A year ago, a patient, GTCA, started to present a case of recurrent furunculosis. He started treatment with dermatologists that prescribed several antibiotics, and then he decided to quit the medication because, as he described, the stomach pain was normal. Such strong medicines can come out without any pain side effects. And several times the patient was taken to the emergency room to get abscess removal surgery, only for a short time later, the disease showing up once again in the same place. And on September 2017, he had the removal of pilonidal cysts too. One very deep ingrown hair, and after the surgery, he was debilitated for 4 months. 3 months after the surgery, he sought a medical infectologist, that was me, and I had background in traditional Chinese medicine treatments, and that is how we met. And I advised him and said his disease was related to inadequate food habits, emotional distress, and some external pathogenic factors interest. I advised him to avoid the dairy products, especially melted cheese, such as pizza, lasagna, and cheese bread, because in Brazil, these cheese breads are very common foods. And all this food can cause that internal heat, that's fire, that can cause the infectious symptoms. And also I said it was important to him to avoid drinking cold liquids, especially cold water, because his ingestion of this cold water can induce the formation of heat inside the body, and also milk, because milk is responsible for the formation of secretion in the body and many other energy imbalances. And that is why the secretion, yellow secretion, is because of the ingestion of this cow's milk, and that's why it was important to take out these kinds of foods. In addition to the dietary counseling, the patient underwent a few auricular acupuncture sessions twice a week. And the most important procedure was this apex ear is a procedure in TCM to take out the heat retention that is causing the infectious symptoms. These are auricular acupuncture points, and all of them are very important because these points are important to maintain the balance of that chart, the yin yang bloods. But the most important point is the apex eubladilati to take out about 3 to 5 drops of blood to take out the heat that was causing the infectious symptoms. And after these auricular acupuncture sessions and apex ear-blood-collecting procedure and dietary counseling, the patient presented significant improvement of all his lesions of furunculosis and pilonidal cysts and was cured of his condition only using this kind of treatment without using antibiotics. And this case was published in this journal, and it was elected the best article of the issue. Now I present the second community case report. Is a case of community recurrent sinusitis. LFO, 54-year-old male patient, had constant sinusitis always in the same time of the year during the winter, mainly in June and July. In June and July is the winter season in Brazil. In 2006, when facing a severe crisis, the patient took varied antibiotics with no improvement of his condition. And 2 weeks later, he returned to his doctor describing the same symptoms: pain behind the eyes and in the forehead center, pain in the superior jawbone and in the teeth, earache, throat pain, and sinus fatigue, and mostly the cough that would not let him sleep properly. And before acquiring the new medications, which the doctor prescribed, afraid of the severe side effects, he sought for a different way of treatment, discovering acupuncture and ending up in my clinic. There, I performed 1 or 2 sections of acupuncture per week, and the patient presented almost complete improvement of all his symptoms. I performed the acupuncture sessions and recommended caution with the cold weather. To further help, I counseled the patient to a more proper diet to his symptoms at that moment based on traditional Chinese medicine teachings. The diet was composed by the avoidance of raw food and vegetables with the exceptions of apple, papaya, and lemons, because these fruits are neutral and the other fruits have cold energy that could induce more energy imbalances. And the patient was also supposed to avoid dairy products and cold water because these foods can induce the formation of the retention of liquid inside the body and the formation of sinusite secretion. And he started drinking water in the natural temperature. And I advised him to drink only lukewarm water because the patient was not able to do it. However, he never drank cold water again. I also advised the patient to avoid common invasions of the external cold and wind, such as taking baths with door and windows open, walking barefoot, and sleeping without drying the hair or dress it properly, especially covering the chest with a t-shirt. And the presence of mucus in sinusitis is associated with the deficiency of energy in the spleen, pancreas, in TCM. Normally, in Western medicine, they treat only with antibiotics the sinusitis symptoms. As there is an energy imbalance in the background of these symptoms, forming the mucus, antibiotics cannot solve the problem. And deficiency of spleen pancreas is associated with the intake of cold water, dairy products, raw food, and the ingestion of sweets. And the emotion that it's very important to imbalance the spleen pancreas is the excessive worry. And following these recommendations, the patient had a complete improvement of his symptoms, only returning to have mild symptoms years later, which never compare with the severity of the symptoms before the treatment. He never had to perform sinusitis treatment with antibiotics again. Now we start the nosocomial infections case. The first case about a patient previously diagnosed with post-surgical nosocomial osteomyelitis in the knees. DAP 23 years old woman suffered a motorcycle accident on December 2004 and producing a knee injury. She was admitted to a local hospital and stayed there for 3 months. There she went through an open bones reduction 11 days after the accident. The antibiotic used prophylactically was cefalzolin sodium applied intravenously, and in this period the patient was also using anti-inflammatory medications to control the pain. And about 1 month later, acute osteomyelitis was diagnosed, and they started to treat her with cephalosporin and garamicin intravenously for 4 weeks, and this medication did not improve her condition. In the following month, the medication was changed to vancomycin intravenously for 4 more weeks. This medication was also not successful, and 1 more change was made, and she started to take imipenem intravenously in the following month. The knee did not improve, and the drainage of yellow secretion continued. Besides this medication, she took other anti-inflammatory medicine as well as painkillers, and she gained a lot of weight during her 3-month stay in the hospital. She was then released from the hospital and prescribed ciprofloxacin to take at home and anti-inflammatory medications. 3 months later, her doctor, an orthopedic surgeon, decided to admit her into hospital for a surgical debridement, which unfortunately resulted in no improvement in her condition. This is a picture of one of the 5 hospitals in my city, this public hospital where the patient was admitted. Almost a year later, her knee still maintained a constant secretion, and her doctor asked for a culture exam of this secretion, which showed the presence of Pseudomonas aeruginosa, sensitive only to polymyxin B. 2 years later, after the accident and with no improvement, she was referred to infectious disease specialist, and that is how she came to my office. In this slide, we can see a little illustration of a knee with suture, and the beginning of hyperemia and exit of purulent secretion. It is not a photo of the patient's real injury, and it is here just for illustration purpose. At the first appointment, she reported she had undergone a 2-year treatment of nosocomial osteomyelitis, and it was noticed that she was overweight, and she reviewed her dietary habits to be rich in dairy products. Her knee showed swelling, edema, and oozing of yellow secretion, which showed retention of humidity and mucosity. And the yellow color revealed the retention of heat according to traditional Chinese medicine. In this case, the heat was in the gallbladder near the meridian according to TCM due to apparent the excessive use of antibiotics and anti-inflammatory medications, and the wrong eating habits according to their energy in the treatment of her disturbances. Diet is very important in the treatment of the disease, which also is one of Hippocrates' teachings: let food be our medicine and medicine be our food. She had 3 sessions of auricular acupuncture, and she was giving the dietary counseling, the same I performed in the other 2 community-acquired infections patients, to avoid dairy products, raw food, cold drinks, and sweets to reduce the production of humidity and mucosity caused by the energy deficiency of the spleen pancreas, according to TCM. She was also oriented to avoid fried foods, eggs, honey, coconut, pepper, chocolate, and alcoholic beverages because this kind of diet can generate heat in the gallbladder meridian, leading to infectious disease symptoms, which was in this case causing the osteomyelitis symptoms. And besides this, Chinese herbal therapy was associated at the same time, which she followed strictly. And the herbal medicine used was called Longdan Shegantan. It's usually to clear the heat in the gallbladder meridian. Because of different approach used based on TCM, it was recommended for her discontinue the use of all medications, antibiotics, and anti-inflammatory medications, because the continued use of these medications were maintaining the formation of heat inside the body in the gallbladder meridian and causing the chronic symptoms of osteomyelitis. And these are auricular acupuncture points used on her, and the same in the case 1 and 2. And through my experience, all the cases were important, but these are the most important procedure, the apex bloodletting, to clear the heat formation inside the body. And with the treatment done, she lost 30 kilos in 2 months of treatment, and the secretion disappeared completely, and she did not suffer any more knee pain. Nowadays, she continued to work normally, and she believes that this treatment saved her life and avoided the possibility of an amputation. Now I will begin to present the last case report of another patient with nosocomial osteomyelitis. This case is from a 78-year-old woman who started with osteoarthritis in both knees, with developed to nosocomial osteomyelitis in the knee too after knee surgery. Back in 1994, after the osteoarthritis diagnosis, she decided to be treated by a doctor from a different city, and the doctor chosen recommended a prosthesis which was placed in her left knee when she was 55 years old without any problems. And the procedure was done at this hospital in Ribeirão Preto, and on February 2nd, 2007, 13 years after, when she was 68 years old, a total prosthesis was placed in her right knee by the same physician who operated her left knee at the same hospital. So after the surgery, the patient remembered that the knee became very swollen and red and had a purulent secretion, but only anti-inflammatory and Clexane was prescribed with success. And 3 months later, she decided to change her orthopedic doctor to one who works in her city specializing in knees. The new physician told her to take 500 milligrams of ciprofloxacin orally every 12 hours, and her symptoms indicated an infectious condition in her right knee. He also recommended her to go to infectious disease doctor, and that is how I met her. I diagnosed the energy disturbances according to TCM and prescribed Chinese herbal therapy, the same used in case 3. And she also received dietary counseling, which was the same in all cases, and she had to avoid foods that could cause spleen deficiency, which leads to both formation of humidity and heat retention in the gallbladder meridian. And auricular acupuncture was administered in apex ear blood dilating to balance internal energies of yin and yang blood and take out the heat retention. And 9 months after her right knee operation, she went to a pneumologist who admitted her to a hospital, where she was medicated with oral prednisone and 400 milligrams moxifloxacin per day for 3 days, continuing this medication at home. But 1 year after her right knee operation, she was complaining that her right knee was hurting and was swollen. And after lab exams, it was noticed that the C-reaction protein was increasing, and then cephalexin plus rifampicin were prescribed for 2 months. And 6 months later, she went to see her orthopedic surgeon, and he decided to remove the prosthesis in her right knee because it was infected. And antibiotic-loaded bone cement was plated in with external fixation. And before, during, and after this operation, she was given 1 gram cefazolin every 8 hours and 40 milligrams clexane subcutaneously. And subsequent culture was collected that identified multi-resistant Pseudomonas aeruginosa, only sensitive to polymyxin B, the same as the third case. And she also received 2 blood bags of transfusion and had a fever at that day. And 4 days later, she was discharged from the hospital located in our city. And she was prescribed 500 milligrams ciprofloxacin, taken orally every 12 hours at home. And she had been taking this medication for 4 months when I suspended it. And this graph shows the evolution of the C-reactive protein throughout the treatment period of the patients, prior to the removal of the infected prosthesis, and after its removal. In arrow number 1 in green, we notice a sharp fall in the values of CRP tests coinciding with the removal of the infected prosthesis and the placement of the antibiotic-loaded bone cement and plastic spacer. The arrow number 2 in red demonstrates the decrease on CRP values when ciprofloxacin was discontinued. You can see that when she was using antibiotics, the CRP exam were increasing and was decreasing when we took out the antibiotics. This is very important to you to understand that the use of medication can decrease the vital energy of this patient and can increase the formation of internal heat that is causing the inflammatory process here. And when you discontinue the medication, the reduction in the vital energy do not exist anymore, and the reduction occurring the reduction of formation of internal heat, decreasing the inflammatory process. The arrow number 3, we notice a slight increase in the value of CRP when ciprofloxacin and Chinese hermotherapy, London, Shegantan, were associated. And the arrow number 4 in orange indicates a significant decrease in the value of CRP when the antibiotics were totally withdrawn and the CRP values were going close to normal value, were maintained while only the patient was maintaining only with Chinese dietary counseling, restriction, and acupuncture sessions. Today, this patient uses a walker and cannot bend her right knee when sitting inside the car due to the removal of the prosthesis and the fixation of the joint with the orthopedic cement. Despite of this, we can notice that she is not using any antibiotics or anti-inflammatory medications, and that the healing was perfect, showing no sign, no inflammation and infection. And her last treatment consisted only with acupuncture sessions associated with proper dietary counseling according to the energy imbalances. And this aim was to balance the yin yang energies at last obtaining a cure. In the case of osteomyelitis, according to teachings of traditional Chinese medicine, it corresponds to energy imbalances in the gallbladder meridian with formation of internal heat. This heat is usually caused by the excessive energy in the liver meridian, emotional factors, inadequate diet, or overuse of medications. And the deficiency of energy of other meridians can also generate heat in the gallbladder meridian. And this imbalance can generate different symptoms, or as dry mouth, bad breath, bitter taste in mouth, feeling of fear, palpitations, dermatitis, and in this clinical presentation, osteomyelitis. In this picture on this slide is illustrated with an image of the gallbladder. However, it's important to understand that the imbalance in the is in the energy level in the gallbladder meridian, not actually in the physical organ of the gallbladder. And both cases study 3 and 4 were published in the international in this journal in 2018. And to better understand the similarities between these 4 cases report and how this patient had a more successful treatment without the use of antibiotics, it's important to understand that the main principles of traditional Chinese medicine, as said before, health is related to the dynamic balance between these 4 energies, yin and qi and blood. And yin and yang are 2 opposite forces present in everything in the universe and inside the body, and their balance is the major importance for the body's health. And if there are imbalances between these 2 energies, the appearance of symptoms occur, and if not properly treated, consolidates as disease in the future. And this diagram shows yin and yang, and the symbol demonstrates the arrangement of the dark yin and light yang. And this chart represents the various combinations of yin yang qi and blood presented by a sample of 100 patients in my clinic. And there are combination of yin and yang deficiency, yin and yang or blood deficiency, yin, blood deficiency, only blood deficiency, yin yang, blood deficiency, and heat retention. You can see that all these combinations can lead to a variety clinical presentations such emotional or physical symptoms. And when explaining these concepts and ideas, it might be helpful to understand how these interconnections and relationships happen inside the body. And the answer for this question is in the energy concept. Everything in the world is formed by energy, and matter from which energy is in the universe is made of is a form of energy in the infinite arrangement of atoms made up of particles that are in the constant state of circular motions. And matter is what can be seen by the naked eye. What is invisible is energy, and everything that exists in our universe is formed by energy, including the human body. And to achieve these results, there is the necessity of integrating Chinese medicine reasoning with the Western medicine reasoning to achieve the results of treatment nosocomial and community infections without any antibiotics. And you will saw that all patients receive dietary counseling, and food is considered medicine according to this study and according to Hippocrates. And according to Hippocrates, dietary prescription are omnipresent, and their aim is to alter the body's constitution. In the Western medicine perspective, several scientific studies demonstrate the effectiveness of acupuncture in fortifying immunity and promoting health. And Western medicine usually does not consider the influence of the external factors, but in these two books is very important in TCM, the importance of the study and the addressing the influence of the external pathogenic factors in the beginning of the formation of many diseases, in this case, the infectious disease. And in the Hippocratic Corpus, there is a chapter entitled On Hairs, Water, and Places, exclusively focused on the influence of the external pathogenic factors. Only this, I think here this law is very important to you to understand, because when the patients are using antibiotics and anti-inflammatory medications, the patients, these medications can reduce the vital energy of this patient. And when you reduce the energy of this patient, as I show you in that chart, there is a formation of internal heat inside the body that can lead to infectious process. And that is why the use of high concentrated medication can lead to the formation of internal heat and can lead to formation of infectious process. And that is why in all my treatment, when I need to use some kind of medication, I prefer to use high diluted medications such as homeopathies to increase the vital energy and reduce the formation of internal heat that is causing the complication in these kinds of patients. And the conclusion of this study is that it is possible to treat nosocomial and community infections with the same method. However, to achieve this goal, the physician has to understand the patient's body and the patient's units in a different way. Western medicine perspective only focus in the pathogenic agent like bacteria, virus, fungus, etc. In all the case report described today, the treatment was individualized, even though the case was the same. The energy imbalances according to TCM, each patient was treated according to their specific energy imbalances with acupuncture, apexia, bloodletting, dietary counseling, and orientation about the influence of the external pathogenic factors in the condition. In this way, according to Hippocrates' principles, disease are a natural process, and the physician goal is to provide for the patients the body strength they needed for their own bodies to overcome the infectious process. Thank you. This presentation was published in this journal in 2019, I think. And thank you for your attention. Sorry for the long presentation. This is another Hippocrates quote: natural forces within us are the true healers of the disease. Thank you for your attention. If you have any question, I will be very happy to answer it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Huang Weiling, for the presentation. It was really informative and very neatly presented with each and every detail in it. So yeah, now let's see if anyone has any questions. So yeah, do we have any questions?
কোশ্চেন লোক আছে দেখি কাকে বলে
Dr. Dhammapada Mandal, do we have any questions? Like, are you having any questions for Dr. Ling?
And this kind of this kind of reasoning, I'm nowadays I'm treating the patients with COVID-19 too, because the COVID-19 reaction, the complications are related to the energy imbalances generated by the energy deficiencies in all patients treated. And the medication used are no. I will present this study today. Okay.
Okay. Okay then. So I guess there are no questions. So yeah, we'll wait for your next presentation, Dr. Wailing. Yeah.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
yeah, moving on to our next presentation. It's from Dr. Vladimir Zazak from Cancer Research Institute, BMCSAS, Slovakia. So yeah.
Okay, I am here. Do you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you. Doctor, could you please click on the screen button so that you'll be able to share your screen
So
with
that I
us?
should now I should put screen.
Yeah.
Screen, yes. And now the my presentation, okay.
Presentation. Yeah.
And now
Just click on OK and your screen will be shared with us.
what?
You can
How?
just click. Oh, is it not? One moment. Just click
I
on
don't
this
know.
share button.
I don't know what to do now.
Or like you
May I
can click
speak?
on this share button so that you can share your screen with us.
I have not here this.
Okay, could you please let me know like which of the device are you using for the presentation? Because we have three devices of yours. So I have mentioned the one with the camera, with the one which you're having the webcam. I've made that the presenter. Are you giving your presentation from that?
May I start?
Yeah.
Okay. But I didn't see me, but it's not problem, okay?
Oh, like
May I
your
start my
screen,
presentation?
like your screen is not visible to us.
I am starting my presentation, okay?
Okay.
At present, the fight against the virus
Um,
is focused on
I'm
early
I'm really
diagnosis.
sorry. Actually, doctor, your screen is not visible. Like we are not able to see your presentation.
I don't know
Uh,
what to do.
okay, let me just explain you. You can click on the screen button. At the bottom, you have four buttons: mic, camera, screen, and leave. So there you can just click on screen button.
So that I screen, okay.
Yeah. So once you click on that, a pop-up window will open, like all your apps will open.
Ah,
So
boss,
select
my God.
one. Okay, select one and click on share. Were you able to do it? Were you able to do like you can just click on the share screen button and you can select the PowerPoint presentation.
Just a moment. I am not at
Sure.
home with this.
Okay.
Okay, but
No. Okay,
may I
maybe
start?
like your screen is not visible to us. We are not able to see your
I I
screen.
I cannot find the screen.
The screen button, the below, you have four buttons. at the bottom
Yes,
of your
but
screen.
I didn't see it. I didn't see
Okay,
it.
can you send us an email with your presentation, PowerPoint presentation document so that I can,
Sorry, I don't understand you.
can you send us an email with the PowerPoint presentation, your presentation? I have given the email ID of mine. Please check in the chat box. You can send me an email. I will be showing your presentation.
I don't know what to do because
Uh-huh. You can send us an email with the PowerPoint with the document.
so I cannot start my presentation, okay?
Yeah, because we are not able to see the presentation. So you can send us an email with your presentation. I can present it on your behalf and you can talk.
What do you mean email?
Mail the PPT, the PowerPoint presentation.
I can, okay. Uh, I will send it, my presentation
Yeah,
by email to
yeah.
Jennifer Jones.
Okay, you can send it. You can send it.
Okay, I send it.
Okay, just give me a moment. I will just check. Just give me a moment.
Yeah.
I've got your email. I'm just presenting on your behalf. Please do check. Yeah, are you able to see my screen?
Sorry?
So, yeah, are you able to see my screen? Yeah. Now you can start your presentation, Dr.
Yes,
Vladimir.
may I start?
Yeah, please do start.
Okay. But there is a problem.
If you want me to move the slides, please do let me know so that I can change the slides for you.
I can move.
No,
So,
it's like I will be able to move. So please do let me know if you want me to change the slide. I will change it. You want me to change the slide?
no, I cannot change the slide.
No, like you will not be able to do it. I can do it for you. I will be doing it for you.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, we may start. Yeah.
Yeah, please do start.
Second slide, please.
Yeah.
Okay, it's okay. May I started, okay?
Yeah, please do start.
At present, the fight against the virus is focused on early diagnosis and vaccination, which are indispensable and essential methods for finding a viable solution. However, these are virtually defense reactions. The virus reigns. We have turned the parasite into a king, practically having become its hostage, and the self-confidence of humankind received a very strong blow. In most parts of the world, the second wave of infection has proved to be much stronger than was in the spring 2020. There is a general perception that the definition of the second wave can be adequately expressed because there are still many ambiguities. The statement doesn't stand up because there are certain laws and rules in biology. However, the explanation of this phenomenon is not impossible, and there is a way to clarify the pandemic of the new coronavirus. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Hello.
Oh yeah, I have already changed it.
Uh, okay. Every virus is a parasite that can be exist in its own and is fully dependent on its carrier. This is a basic condition of its existence. Very little is known about how viruses can be transmitted between different species, eventually spread to humans. The parasite must have its own host, and it's a living cells. It's generally claimed that the virus can exist without the carrier for 2 to 5 seconds, during which it transmits to another species. But this contraries the basic dogma which says that the virus cannot exist without the living cells. Following this viral pathway is not easy and has not been sufficiently investigated. However, this is a key issue that can lead to fundamental change in the way viruses are perceived. Next slide, please. What living cells carry viruses? Based on work with bovine leukemia virus in a stable, we monitored the course of infection in healthy animals and concluded that the bacterial cells can be a host of the virus. We tested this assumption and confirmed the result. This idea was then tested in an HIV model in the laboratory of Professor Flossie von Stahl in UCSD. Even with this virus, we have been able to prove that its host may be bacteria. Evidence was confirmed at the DNA level by hybridization and PCR using commercial diagnostic primers. Next slide, please. At the protein level, HIV-like protein were confirmed, but Western blotting using commercial monoclonal antibodies against HIV antigen. In the swab of HIV-positive children from Cambodia and Kenya, HIV was found in commercial bacteria, but it's also often found in the yeast Candida albicans. Based on this result, it was concluded that many, if not all, viruses can be transmitted by bacteria or by yeast. If all, the coronavirus. A virus, like a parasite, is not a full-featured biological form and thus hard to fight. Its main weakness is that it's hostage by bacteria or by yeast. It's very important because when it is only one weakness of a virus, we must use it. Thank you. The mechanism of viral transmission, and thus of a new coronavirus, has not been examined in sufficient detail. It's generally accepted that the virus must have its primary host and carrier. This can be a cells of the host organs because the virus could damage them easily. In terms of the mechanism of existence and transmission, the following could be the most suitable carriers of the virus. That are bacteria, yeast, or a single-cell organism. In terms of transmission, all the above mentioned single-cell organisms meet the necessary attributes. The virus selects a carrier that will be able to exist, multiply, and transfer to another suitable host. In what form is the virus released from the primary host and transferred to another host? Either as the virus itself, or it's moved there in its carrier. If we suppose that the virus will travel using the carrier, then for the new host must be acceptable. Thank you. Next slide, please. Bacteria are complete biological form, and then we can be eliminated. By destroying bacteria carrying a virus, the virus ceases to exist. Thus the many viral infection can be stopped. It should be ascertained whether the current epidemic has been caused by bacteria or coronavirus containing yeast. It's likely that such coronavirus there is a problem. I can't move. Okay. It's likely that such coronavirus is transmitted among humans and travel far to recipient cells of respiratory tract. On the contact of the viral tentacles with AC2 receptor, the virus is released and penetrate the recipient cells of the respiratory tract and process of tissue destruction began. Next slide, please. Thus, after overcoming the infection and eliminating the virus in the recipient lung cells by conventional drug-based treatment approach such as ventilation and activation of the immune system, the infection is suppressed and the patient can be pronounced cured. But the virus-containing bacteria are still present in the respiratory and intestinal tract, and under optimal condition they multiply, consequently penetrate the body and attack the recipient cells. Thus individuals after infection can infect other individuals by secreting coronavirus-containing bacteria from the mouth, nose, but also from the rectum in the stool. Surprisingly, no attention is currently being paid in a possible fecal infection. However, the history provides us with a lot of evidence about the importance of disinfection in disposal of feces during epidemics. For example, in the Old Testament, the first book of Moses, we will see the instruction where detailed instructions are mentioned. Next slide, please. This important approach has been proven many times in the history and has helped to overcome epidemics. It's surprising why in the current epidemics this possibility of transmitting infection is absolutely marginal, has not been considered. After all, is this form of the virus transmission that can answer the question about what may be the mechanism of induction of second wave of infection. We have become better at successful prevention in droplet aspect of this infection with the face mask, social distancing, and hand washing. However, we are not preventing the fecal infection yet. It's necessary to introduce early and effective disposal of excrement and disinfection of toilets by UV, for example, by UV lamp. Particularly important is administering a suitable antibiotic, which eliminates coronavirus carrier in the intestinal and respiratory tract. Next slide, please. To verify this concept, the swab should be removed from the further and rectum of the infected person and those who have overcome the infection. The swab is transferred directly, applied to agar and other rich medium, and incubated overnight at 37. Individual graft colony will be determined by RT-PCR for coronavirus. Subsequently, it will be analyzed to which antibiotics the bacteria containing the coronavirus are fully sensitive. The optimal antibiotic is administered to patient. Under normal circumstances, it's expected the result may be known within 10 days. Patients should be given probiotic and prebiotic after antibiotic treatment. On the end, allow me to say some more sequences. According to my experiences, I know that my voice is the voice of someone on desert. It's very difficult to promote the new ideas. I can only say that when this idea will come from country, for example, United States and so on, people will accept it. But when this voice is coming from small country in the central of Europe, people not accept it, but mostly discriminate, underestimate us. That's the main problem. But I think that in this situation, every voice should be accepted and try to find a new way to eliminate this epidemic. That's one possibility. Please try about it. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot,
Hello.
Doc. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your kind help. But maybe that my computer is a little out. It's rather old, and I was not able to
No,
find the screen afterwards when I
that's
put
okay.
my
No
slides. Thank you very much.
That's okay, no problem. I do understand, doctor, no problem. So yeah, all these technical issues do happen in all the webinars, so please don't worry about it. Anyways, thank you for your presentation, Dr. Vladimir.
Okay.
It was informative. Yeah. So do we have any questions? Anyways, no, there are no questions. So thanks a lot for your presentation, Dr. Vladimir.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Now, moving on to our next presentation, we have Asim Setia from ISF College of Pharmacy, India. So yeah, you can just click on the screen button so you'll be able to share your screen with us. Yeah, perfect. To eliminate the GoToMeetings, you can just click on two arrows facing each other so that it'll just vanish.
Just a minute.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so my screen is visible to everyone.
Yeah, it is visible.
Okay, shall I start?
Yeah, you can start.
Okay, so good afternoon or good evening to everyone. I am Mr. Asim Setia from Research Division of Pharmaceutics, ISF College of Pharmacy, India. My topic for oral presentation is a comprehensive update on pathophysiology and management of SARS-CoV-2. Okay, so start from the introductions of the coronavirus COVID-19. The novel coronavirus disease transmitted from humans to humans and has rapidly become the pandemic and responsible for the current global health crisis. And this COVID-19 is caused by the severe acute respiratory syndrome SARS-CoV-2, which is said to be zoonotic origin. This is the structure of coronavirus. It contains the various types of protein on their surface, such as spike, membrane, nucleocapsid, and envelope. And this is the mechanism of the COVID-19. This coronavirus contains various types of protein on the surface, and the leading protein is known as the spike proteins. And the spike proteins enter into the host body and attach with the KCOM1, which is present in the host cell, and through conformation changes, the receptor-mediated endocytosis take place, and the virus released towards the genomic RNA host cell cytoplasm and translate this genome strands into two polyproteins such as polyprotein 1N and polyprotein 1B, and many non-structural proteins such as NSP3, 4, and 6, and, and, and such as RD, RP, and helicase localized into the DMV and drive the production of subgenomic RNA, from which the structures and accessory proteins are produced in the next phase of translations. And then from one RNA, this n number of copies of proteins forms, and then the transmembrane structures proteins enters into the endoplasmic reticulum, and then it transported in the Golgi compartment, and the mature virion released into the smooth wall vesicles by exocytosis process and release the viral progeny and mature the coronavirus infect to the other cell. And this is the mechanisms how this entry of human coronavirus in CNS. Basically, it goes from the olfactory bulb using nasal infections, which causes inflammation and demyelinations, and further it reaches to the whole brain via blood-brain barrier and cerebrospinal fluid through blood-cerebrospinal barrier within 7 days. And the possible entry of SARS-CoV-2 into the brain and CNS is important to design effective antiviral drugs. And this is a brief outlook of antiviral drugs. Here it is an overview of multiple types of medicines which found to be useful for the treatment of coronavirus. As we already talked about the mechanism of coronavirus, here some of the drug targeting site through which it manages SARS-CoV-2. Some of the drugs are chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine, favipiravir, lopinavir, ritonavir, ivermectin, remdesivir, azithromycin, and umifenovir. This figure shows that the drug target size the drug target to the specific portions and inhibits the replication process of coronavirus. And the novel coronavirus can enter inside the cells through this ACE2 angiotensin converting enzyme to anti-MRP SS2 inhibits, and this inhibits by the chemocyte mesylate, and umifenavir can prevent the viral entry to the cells, and the chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine mechanism of action is not fully understood. However, it is proposed that this drug affect the viral entry, and the lopinavir or ritonavir, known as the protease inhibitors, and it inhibits proteolysis. And lopinavir and ritonavir inhibits precisely the proteinase 3CL-Pro, and the RNA replications inhibited by the ribavirin and favipiravir. And both drugs, the ribavirin and favipiravir, has the potentials to inhibit the SARS-CoV-2 replications, and favipiravir and remdesivir inhibit the RNA-dependent RNA polymerase. And this is the drugs used for the management of SARS-CoV-2. These are the drugs, and these are the targets, such as for chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine. Its target is the increase of endosomal pH, and the favipiravir, its target is the RNA-dependent RNA polymerase. And lopinavir or ritonavir, it's a protease 3CL1 inhibitors, and ivermectin is the importin alpha or beta 1 heterodymer, and remdesivir also acts on the RDRP, such as the RNA-dependent RNA polymerase, and the azithromycins act on the 50S subunit of the bacterial ribosomes. And the umifenavir, in its targets is the inhibitor of the membrane fusions between the viral capsids and the cell membrane of the target cell. This is the role of herbal source and their outcomes in the SARS-CoV-2. This is the Ayurveda's immunity boosting measures for self-care during COVID-19 crises. This is the recommended measures. This is the general measures, such as drink warm water throughout the day, and daily practice of yogasana and pranayama and meditation for at least 30 minutes. This is the image of the yogasana, pranayama, and meditation. And this is the Ayurvedic immunity promoting measures. Take Chyawanprash 10 gram or 1 teaspoon in the morning, and diabetic should take sugar-free Chyawanprash. This is the compositions of the Chyawanprash, such as the ashwagandha. It have the activity of antioxidants and aphrodisiacs, and bala, it have the antioxidants and promote strength and vigor. And pipalia, it's the respiratory system rejuvenations, bioenhancers, and digestive. And the gokasura, it's act as a kidney rejuvenations, improve strength and stamina. And Brahmi act as a nootropic, anxiolytics, neuroprotective, and Shatavari act as a specific mind beneficial for eyes, promotes vitality. And Guruji act as an immunomodulator, adaptogen, hepatoprotective, and Amla act as an anti-aging, immunoboosters, antioxidant. And this is some of the simple Ayurvedic procedures, such as the nasal applications. Apply sesame oil or coconut oil or ghee in both the nostrils in the morning and evening. This is the image how to apply. And this another therapy is sea oil pulling therapy. Take 1 tablespoon sesame or coconut oil in mouth. Do not drink. Swish in the mouth for 2 to 3 minutes and spit it off, followed by warm water rinse. And this can be done once or twice a day. This is some of the Indian medicinal herbs which might inhibit the H-CoVs and other viruses. Such as these are the some of the plant sources, such as Acacia nilotica. Its mechanism is inhibition. It acts on the viruses HIV. And this Allium sativum, its mechanism is proteolytic and hemagglutinin activity and viral applications. It acts on the SARS virus. And another one is the endographic paniculata. Its mechanism is suppressions, and it acts on the target pathways such as the NLRP3, capsid 1, and interleukins 1 beta. It's act on the virus SARS-CoV and likely SARS-CoV-2 viruses. And some of the other plant sources, such as Pseudomonas inamigerin, its mechanism is the inactivations and targets the ribosomes and act on the virus SARS-CoV-2. And these are some of the other plant sources. Its mechanism of action is inhibitions and blockings, and it's act on the various types of virus of SARS-CoV. This is the vaccines, co-vaccines, India's first indigenous COVID-19 vaccines. This Covaxin's India's indigenous COVID-19 vaccine. It is developed by the Bharat Biotech in collaboration with the Indian Council of Medical Research, National Institute of Virology, NIV Pune. This indigenous inactivated vaccines is developed and manufactures in Bharat Biotech Biosafety Level 3 high contaminant facility. And this vaccines is developed using whole virion inactivated viro cells derived platform technology. Inactivated vaccines do not replicate and are therefore unlikely to revert and cause pathological effects, and they contain the dead virus incapable of infecting people but still able to instruct the immune system to mount a defensive reactions against an infection. These are the three key attributes such as covaxin is included along with immunopotentiators, also known as vaccines and adjuvants, which are added to the vaccines to increase and boost its immunogenicity. It is a two-dose vaccinations regimen given 28 days apart, and it is a vaccines with no sub-zero storage and no reconstitution requirement, and ready to use liquid presentation in multi-dose vial, and it is stable at 2 to 8 degrees centigrade. And this is the covaxins developed by Bharat Biotech for COVID-19. It is India's first and largest phase 3 efficacy trial with more than 25,800 participants included in the trial. And it is a 5 ml. Its vial is a 5 ml containing 10 doses, and once it open, it can be used within 4 hours. Otherwise, it's to be destroyed. And its amount in India is around 200 rupees, and in USD around 3 USD. And this is the covaxins composite. This is the composition of covaxins. It contains the 6 microgram of whole virion inactivated SARS-CoV-2 antigen. Its strains is NIV2020770, and the other inactivated components such as 250 microgram aluminum hydroxide gel and 15 micrograms of imidazopinolene and 2.5 mg of 2-phenoxyethanol and phosphate buffer saline up to 0.5 ml. And this how this covaxins, Bharat Biotech covaxins works. It works firstly this vaccines made from the coronavirus. Covaxins works by teaching the immune systems to make antibodies against the SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus, and the antibodies against attached to viral proteins such as so-called spike protein that stood its surface. And to create covaxins, Bharat Biotech used a sample of the coronavirus isolated by Indian's National Institute of Virology. And then next, this virus to be killed, then killing the virus. Once the researchers produced large stock of the coronavirus, they dosed them with the chemical called beta-propiolactone. This is the chemical beta-propiolactone. This dose to the coronavirus. The compound disabled the coronavirus by bonding to their gene, and the inactivated coronavirus could no longer replicate, but their proteins include spike remain intact. The researchers then drew off the inactivated virus and mixed them with a tiny amount of an aluminum-based compound called an adjuvant. And adjuvants stimulate the immune system to boost its response to a vaccine. And then next is the promoting an immune response. And because the coronavirus and covaxins are dead, they can be injected into the arm without causing COVID-19. Once inside the body, some of the inactivated virus are swallowed up by a type of immune cell called an antigen presenting cell. The antigen presenting cells tear the coronavirus and apart and display some of its fragments on its surface. A so-called helper T cell. This helper T cells may detect the fragments if the fragment fits into one of its surface protein. The T cells become activated and can help recruit other immune cells to respond to the vaccine. And then further, the making of the antibodies, another type of immune cells called a B cell. This B cells may also encounter the inactivated coronavirus, and B cells have surface protein in a huge variety of shapes, and a few might have the right shapes to latch onto the coronavirus. When a B cell locks on, it can pull part or all of the virus inside and present coronavirus fragments on its surface. A helper T cell activated against the coronavirus can latch onto the fragments, and when that happens, this B cells get activated too, and it proliferates and pours out antibodies that have the same shape as their surface proteins. And then the stopping the virus, once vaccinated with covaxin, the immune system can respond to an infection of live coronavirus, and the B cells produce antibodies that stick to the invaders, and antibodies that target the spike proteins can prevent the virus from entering cells, and other kind of antibodies may block the virus by other means. And this is the covaxin is being tested in 2 doses given 4 weeks apart. After this is the first dose. After administration of first dose, the second dose to be given to the patients or populations after 28 days later. And this is the state-wise data of Covaxin in India. In India, vaccinated to the different state of India, and it's around close to 8 million beneficiary against COVID-19 in 28 days. And this is the statistical data of Covaxin in India. This is the current data of 20th of February. This Covaxin started in India on 17 January and until 23rd February, at least one dose to be administered to 0.77% of population, and fully vaccinated is around 0.1%. And this is some of the COVID vaccines developer in India, such as the COVID shields. Its type is the chimpanzee adenovirus, and its manufacturer is the Serum Institute Pune. And this collaborator is AstraZeneca, and it is approved for the emergency use. And Covaxin is inactivated virus developed by the Bharat Biotech Hyderabad, and its collaborator is Indian Council of Medical Research, and it is also approved for emergency use. And ZY-SCOV-D, it is a DNA vaccines. Its manufacturer is Cadila Healthcare, and collaborator is Department of Biotechnology. It under the phase 2. And Sputnik V, it's a type of human adenovirus vaccines developed. Manufacturer is the Dr. Reddy's Laboratory, Hyderabad, and collaborators is the Gamaleya National Center, Russia, and it under the phase 2. It's phase 2 over and phase 3 to be start. And similar to these are some of the other vaccines, such as HGCO19. It's mRNA based vaccines. Its manufacturer is Genova Pune, and collaborators is HDT USA, and its stage is the clinical trial. It under the clinical trials phase 1 and 2 to start. And this is the inactivated rabies vector platforms. Its manufacturer is the Bharat Biotech Hyderabad, and collaborator is Thomas Jefferson's University, USA. It under the preclinical stage. And so in the conclusions, as per the previous literature, it has been concluded that the antiviral drugs are working by targeting the RNA-dependent RNA polymerase. Also, some of the antiviral drugs shows better therapeutic efficacy on SARS-CoV-2. If we talk about the herbal approaches for SARS-CoV-2, it has been observed that this also has a role as an immunity booster, which is the basic requirements for the management of SARS-CoV-2. Lastly, I would like to conclude that the recently launched vaccines, such as Covaxin, developed by the Bharat Biotech, has promising effect against SARS-CoV-2. So vaccinations is mandatory worldwide so that the world could be free from the SARS-CoV-2. So thank you very much for your kind attention.
So yeah, thank you for your presentation, Mr. Asimi Setia. It was informative, and yeah, it was good to know about the vaccine though. So do we have any questions? I guess there are no questions. Yeah, anyways, thanks a lot for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, moving on to our next presentation, we again have Dr. Huang Weiling. Dr. Huang Weiling, are you available right now?
I have a problem now. Can you schedule my presentation in next presentation?
Sure, then we can do that.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, moving on to our next presentation. So can we have Dr. Shamapada Mandal from University of Garbhanga, India? Doctor, are we ready with the presentation?
Yes, but my mic is not.
Your voice is audible to us.
Yes, audible.
Yeah, it is audible.
Okay. Can you see me?
Yeah.
My presentation is opening. Is it right?
Yeah, it is. It is opening.
Can you see this presentation, madam?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, then I'm starting my presentation, madam.
Yeah, you can. You can start the
Yes,
presentation.
yes. I am Professor Samapada Mandal from Gauramunga University, India. I am going to present my research entitled Can Probiotics Combat COVID-19 Ongoing Pandemic? So, before going to enter into the main discussion or main topic of the study, we have to consider some background because we know this topic is on coronavirus disease 19. So, we know that the situation is now still same because the pandemic has been started 1 year before. That means more than 1 year has been passed, but now the disease is still pandemic. But there is little answer on drugs or vaccine regarding coronavirus treatment or protection of patients around the world. So we can consider different types of alternatives, and here we have considered to discuss about probiotics, prebiotics and postbiotics, which are living microorganisms, mainly lactic acid bacteria such as lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, and prebiotics, some substances that are required for their growth and functionality of probiotics, and postbiotics are some secretory materials of probiotics microorganisms that will be discussed later on. The probiotics uh, are also known to be used against cancer and cardiovascular disease, and we know that the cancer patients as well as cardiovascular patients are prone to be infected by SARS-CoV-2 that cause COVID-19 disease, and we thus consider our discussion for the treatment of cancer, cardiovascular as is COVID-19 by probiotic therapy. So, and we know in this time there are secondary infection of various microorganisms, basically bacteria, that cause secondary infection to COVID-19 patients. So, we will see the effect of probiotics on bacterial pathogens and thereafter our conclusion. So, see these features. This is coronavirus disease distribution around the world. I have taken snapshot from World Health Organization dashboard and on February 24, 2021. And this is the present situation. The last date, that is on 23rd, the number of patients infected newly were this, that means 173,594. And this is 111, that means 111 million total cases, and death is like this, that means 2.475 million. So this is the distribution of coronavirus disease, and this is the death. The total death in the last 24 hours on 23rd of this month were 4,000 around, and the total death is 2.475 million, and the cases are like this. And this is the heat table showing the death and cases in different top coronavirus infected world. That means in different countries. First is United States. In this column, the country-wise cases and daily cases are represented, and daily death and cumulative deaths are represented. And in this column, transmission classification are, that means in USA we have seen that community transmission occurred, and in India cluster of cases, again community transmission in Brazil, cluster in cases in Russia, and community transmission again in the United Kingdom, community transmission in France, community transmission in Spain, in Italy cluster of cases again in community transmission has been seen in Turkey. These are tough countries with the coronavirus cases and deaths. And we are seeing that there are different regions by WHO, World Health Organization. There are 6 regions: Americas, Europe, Southeast Asia, Eastern Mediterranean, Africa, and Western Pacific. And these are the number infected. That means America contains the highest number, 49.7 million, Europe for 37.97 million, Southeast Asia 13.415 million, Eastern Mediterranean 6.266 million, Africa 2.8, and Western 1.5. And see this on 15th on 15th of this month, the cases were like this. That means 14.295 million, and here we are seeing that it has been increased in Americas, and the total distributions are also increased. That means the disease is not stable, this is increasing. And here the death, similarly in 6 different regions, the deaths are also increased, and the pattern of increment are like this, and the color patterns are represented in this here in this table. And here are the top 6 countries with coronavirus disease. United States of America being the first, then India, Brazil, Russia, United Kingdom, and France. And the pattern of appearing the cases are like this. That means in all countries we are seeing that after a highest peak there are reduction of cases, but still it is ongoing. And similarly, about the death of coronavirus cases, this is now just increasing also in Brazil, as in United States, Mexico, but India it was somewhat reduced, but it is still there are disease death case, and in United Kingdom as well as in Italy also. So we have to see that how the disease transmission. We all know that the virus was, that means SARS-CoV-2 was derived from an animal bat origin, and it is genetically derived, and then infect the human person, and then person to person by direct or indirect contact through aerosol or droplets. That means due to uh, coughing, sneezing, etc. These are all known to us. And there are no specific drugs or vaccines. We are trying to use masks to get protected ourselves by face mask using, because of aerosol as well as droplets transmission, and since there are no drugs. And so the disease is more devastating, and this is for going on for long times, and long haulers are also visible. So we have to know the symptoms. The basic symptoms are fever, gastrointestinal issues, myalgia, and arthralgia. Dry cough, shortness of breath, and body ache is, and others include headache, fatigue, loss of smell, sore throat, chills, and loss of taste. But why the disease is so devastating and death cases are high? Because of cytokine storm that we will going to present. That means due to the immunopathology consideration of the disease COVID-19. So we are seeing that the immunopathology of COVID-19 based upon the lymphopenia. That means the decrease of different types of lymphocytes, then CD8 T cell, NK cell, CD4 T cell, and B cell. And then T cell activation due to higher functioning, and then exhausted. That means the cells then become, after heavy functioning, after heavy releasing of the interferons or interleukins, the lymphocyte become dysfunctioned. And thereafter we are seeing that like T lymphocytes, the decrease of monocyte number, eosinophil and basophil number occurs, while the neutrophil number is increased. And in the next case, increased production of cytokines. That means mainly the interleukin 1 beta, interleukin 1, interleukin 6, interleukin 10. These are all increased and cause to aid cytokine storm and dysfunction of different organs that we will show in the next slides. And due to this, different types of, that means total antibodies are increased along with the increment of IgG number. Here we are seeing that essential mechanism of SARS-CoV-2 induced immunopathology. That means how the immunopathology occurs. We are seeing that T cell become infected And here the number of the infectious secretes different types of interleukins, the increased number of interleukins, and the spleen and lymph nodes are dysfunctioned and lymphopenia occurs. And here acidosis occurs, T cell become dysfunctions. And in this slide here we are seeing that in the increase neutrophils occurs due to the infection of different types of microorganisms, virus, other than virus, that means fungus, bacteria are occurred, and so secondary infection are also occurring. And here we are seeing that this monocyte secretes GMCS that induce Th1 helper cell to induce the GMCSF that acts on CD14 cells to secrete high number of interleukin 6, and thereafter secreting interleukin 1 beta, and the number of and the recruitment of monocyte, neutrophil, and macrophages occurs that also secretes different types of interleukins. And here the cells, we are seeing that different types of cells containing the receptor ACE2, angiotensin converting enzyme 2, the viral particles get attached and then enter into the cells, and this process and the disease progression occurs, and the poor outcome of the patients are seen. And here the clinical implication, that means due to SARS-CoV-2 infection, COVID-19 occurs and different immunopathological situations are seen, especially cytokine storm, and this cytokine storm causes different types of clinical implications, such as here we have already seen that the if lymphopenia, that means number of lymphocytes are decreased, and microbial infection, secondary infection of virus other than virus, fungus and bacteria occur, and different types of organ systems are dysfunctioned because of cytokine storm, mainly the lung as well as the liver, kidney, and heart. Lung due to ARDS, acquired respiratory distress syndrome, and respiratory failure occurs. Liver, ALT, AST, and gamma GT occurs, and in case of kidney, urea and creatinine increased, and creatine kinase and lactate dehydrogenase increased and causing heart dysfunction. So these are the clinical implication of COVID-19 due to cytokine storm. Since we know that there are no specific drugs or vaccine, just there is little answer. There are several procedures, several options to use in the treatment, but not as the preferred treatment option that can be side by side in combination, maybe utilized, such as probiotics. Probiotics are good bacteria, lactic acid bacteria, as well as such as lactobacillus and bifidobacterium that we have already told. Here they can reduce antimicrobial agents in the intestine. They can colonize, they can produce AC, certain fatty acids such as butyrate, and in enzyme bile salt metabolism synthesis, antagonism to bacteria or other.
Dr. Shamapada Mandal, I'm really sorry to interrupt. Your voice is not audible.
Endocrinological effects and production of special. Hello?
Yeah, your voice
Hello?
is. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, now it's audible. Yeah, you can continue with your
Yes.
presentation.
Yes. Okay. And here we are seeing that Lactobacillus fermentum, this strain, we have tested again different bacteria. First, we have isolated bacteriocin from this lactic acid bacteria, this probiotic, and this is the 14.3 kDa probiotic, and which were active against both gram-negative and gram-positive bacteria. And this is the probiotics and prebiotics mixture, that means symbiotics. And this is the mechanism of action, complementary synergistic. Two types of symbiotics are seen. In case of complementary, prebiotic and probiotic materials act independently, but in case of synergistic, like microorganism and substrates, that means that are used as prebiotics are act in combination, and they both act against viral infection, bacterial infection, and that due to and provide health benefit against autochthonous microbiota clearance in our body. So probiotics in COVID-19, just we are seeing that main infection occurs in the lungs, and due to lung infection, the microbiota in the intestine is hampered. That means dysbiosis in gut microbiota occurs. So we are using probiotics. That means treatment with probiotics bacteria have been shown to reduce both upper and lower respiratory tract. And in this case, that the gut homeostasis, that means immune homeostasis, is maintained, and secondary bacterial infection is prevented. And here we are seeing that emulation of antiviral defense and decrease of pro-inflammatory cytokines are occur. And SARS-CoV-2 is thought to bind with angiotensin converting enzyme to receptors to prime and enter the organisms in the lung. So we are seeing that probiotics are very important against SARS-CoV-2 infection, that means for COVID-19 treatment. Here, this is the basic mechanism. In absence of probiotics, hyperinflammation, that means cytokine storm occur, but in presence of probiotics, several immunological actions occur, and viral clearance occurs in early time. And these are some probiotic bacteria: Lactobacillus casei, Lactobacillus gasseri, Lactobacillus rhamnosus, Lactobacillus plantarum. These all are used for the treatment of COVID-19 along with the treatment of other option, but not alone. This can provide to maintain our immune system in the body, both probiotics and prebiotics. And outcome is very good after the application of probiotics against. We are seeing that secondary infection are also prevented due to bacterial infection by probiotics. We have explained this phenomenon, and we are seeing that a large number of gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria are prevented by probiotic, as well as the bacteriocins isolated from probiotics. So probiotics are very good agent for the clearance of COVID-19 virus, that means SARS-CoV-2, as well as bacterial secondary infection. So this is this figure shows that the zone of inhibition against different pathogenic bacteria by the action of different probiotic strains that we have isolated and tested, and these are the strength of inhibition by probiotic bacteria against these bacteria, that means Acinetobacter baumannii, Escherichia coli, Proteus vulgaris, Salmonella typhi. And this is the action of probiotics against cardiovascular disease. That we know that due to the viral infection or maybe the SARS-CoV-2 infection, brain-gut barrier is disrupted, and blood-brain barrier is dysfunctioned. And if we apply probiotics, then blood-brain barrier is restored, and the function of neural system is maintained, and so that the kidney as well as the heart function is maintained by checking the pressure and heartbeat as well as the cardiovascular disease. And here we have seen that due to the absence of probiotics, what happens? The cardiovascular disturbances, heart failure, impaired neural control, arterial hypertension, endothelial dysfunction, disturbances of volumic hypertension, all related to cardiovascular disease. But if we apply probiotics, then short chain fatty acids are synthesized, which maintain the which provide good homeostasis, that means intestinal homeostasis, as well as the immune homeostasis is maintained, and the production of such interleukins are inhibited, and so that all the cardiovascular dysfunction, that means the disease, are prevented by the application of probiotics. And here we are seeing that due to stress in endothelial nitric oxide synthase secretes, and that splits this into nitric oxide and oxygen radical, and there is no NO bioavailability, so that endothelial dysfunction occurs. Here also due to hypertension in mitochondria, the probiotic mediators is preventing this type of action. Here, DNA damage and apoptosis occur due to probiotic action, and cardiac dysfunction is prevented. And also, Ross reactive oxygen species formation is prevented. And here are some probiotic bacteria that are used in cardiovascular disease such as Lactobacillus plantarum, Lactobacillus reuteri, Lactobacillus acidophilus, Lactofermentum rhamnosus, uh, um, Bifidobacterium animalis, Lactobacillus casei, and combination of different types of lactic acid bacteria, and these are all utilized against cardiovascular disease. And now in cancer, we are seeing that different types of DNA damage occurs, and liver and biliary tract cancer is seen in stomach due to direct genotoxic effect it occurs, and the breast cancer is occurring due to circulation of estrogen, that means high amount of blood estrogen level is occurs, and in colon toxicity, that means different types of toxic effect of colon cancer is seen. And here we are seeing that probiotics acts in different chain system, that means they can colonize in our intestine, they can secrete anti bacterial agents, antimicrobial agents, they can compete the bacteria or virus in the which are pathogen, and they can secrete short chain fatty acids, they lower the pH in the intestine, causing the removal or inhibition of growth of pathogenic bacteria, and the pH is inhibited due to the secretion of lactic acid. So all these things are related to prevention of colorectal cancer due to the application of probiotics. And here colorectal mechanism, we are already in explain that antimicrobial peptides are secreted by probiotics. Intestinal pH is lowered, and they can compete with nutrients with the pathogenic bacteria, as well as the surface, gut surface, they can colonize. So pathogenic bacteria are inhibited, and here we are seeing that the translocation of systemic infection is prevented. And here T regulatory cells and H17 is increased, here T regulatory cell decreased, and anti-tumor immunity is produced. In that, here that we have some concern that the probiotic must not contain R factor, that means the plasmid gene containing drug resistance, because the plasmid may transfer to other bacteria which are good, that make transfer the drug resistance. That means in that case drugs are inactivated, and in this way we are seeing that the inflammation are reduced due to the probiotic action. Similarly, postbiotics and prebiotics. Prebiotics, already you have explained that these are substances that are selectively utilized by probiotics, and postbiotics, the substances such as short chain fatty acids and butyrate, and these all are good for the prevention of cancer. That means both prebiotics and postbiotics. And here are some examples of probiotics that are used in different cell lines in vitro system, and we are seeing that cell proliferation is inhibited differently, and apoptosis is increased. So cancer is prevented by in vitro test. This is proved due to the application of probiotics. And here are some animal model tests, different types of lactobacillus species in rat or mice model system, and different types of doses and times are applied. And here we are seeing that tumor induction is inhibited, tumor progression is inhibited, tumor volume is inhibited, tumor multiplication rate is inhibited, and so that the animal model we are seeing that probiotics are active against carcinogenesis. And now some clinical aspects, that means Streptococcus thermophilus, Lactobacillus dulbecki, Lactobacillus gasseri. These are some probiotic strains that are used to for the treatment of some patients, and some risks of colorectal as well as secondary infection of bacteria, papillomavirus induction is reduced. And here are some clinical evidence as well as clinical, that means in these are used against colorectal cancer patients as well as in some animal model or cell system, cell line. in all cases, we are seeing that probiotics are active against carcinogenesis. And here, some dead probiotics as well as the active probiotics are utilized against some colorectal patients and cancer patients. And apoptosis are seen, reduction of immune function. That means that immunogenesis, immune hemostasis is maintained due to the probiotic application. And here are some probiotics that are directly applied on patients. These are the examples in group, and subjects are represented here, and the bacteria which are utilized, dose and duration are presented in this column, and we are seeing that by different way the probiotic action has been visible and cancer patients are treated. And these are some probiotic bacteria that are used against colorectal carcinoma, mainly the Bifidobacterium lactobacillus different strains, liver cancer, Ramosa's Propionibacterium are utilized in gastric cancer, Lactobacillus reuteri, Lactobacillus caferi, and in cervical cancer, Lactobacillus acidophilus, Bifidum utilized. So, in conclusion, we seeing that COVID-19 is ongoing, this pandemic is not ended, and in along with this pandemic, secondary infection, these disease bacteria infect different types of and these are the publications, and ultimately I acknowledge infectious disease webinar 2021 organizing committee organized by Coalesce Research Group for recognition of my research and supporting me for this presentation. Thank you all. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for your presentation,
Hello.
Dr. Shamapada Mandal. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, madam.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. Thanks a lot for your presentation. So, yeah, do we have any
Thank you.
questions? Do we have any questions for Dr. Shamapada Mandal? No, I guess there are no questions. Anyways, thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you, madam.
So, yeah, moving on to our next presentation, but before that, I would like to know if Dr. Huang Wei Ling, are we ready or shall I proceed with the next presentation? Dr. Wei Ling, are you ready for the presentation or shall we move on to the next?
Wait only a minute, please.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, I can present.
Okay. Yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Thank you for changing the position of the presentation. I would like to congratulate all the other presenters of this conference. My second presentation now is chakras energies deficiencies as the cause of fatigue post SARS-CoV-2 infection patients treatment. This presentation was made following what Hippocrates said that It is important to consider other ancient medical traditions prior to the knowledge we have nowadays. So I chose to use traditional Chinese medicine to treat my patients and to do this presentation. Once TCM looks the patient as a whole and not just the symptoms. An outbreak of pneumonia began in December 2019 in Wuhan, China, and a novel coronavirus was identified as the cause agent and was later named severe acute respiratory syndrome SARS-CoV-2. And according to Gu et al. In the article, The Origin, Transmission, and Clinical Therapies on Coronavirus Disease, 38% of the patients studied had fatigue due to SARS-CoV-2 infection. Fatigue is the state of feeling very tired, weary, or sleepy, resulting from insufficient sleep, prolonged mental or physical work, or extended periods of stress or anxiety. For an explanation of TCM, the reason for the symptom of fatigue are induced by deficiency in the 5 organs, including qi, blood, yin and yang deficiencies, caused by the invasion of the exogenous pathogen, excessive physical strains such as manual labor, mental labor, and sexual intercourse, or abnormal emotional states such as elation, anger, worry, anxiety, and sorrow, fear and terror, or an improper diet. To introduce the energy deficiencies, I would like to show a study I did in my clinic between the years 2015 to 2020, where I measured these chakras energy centers among 1,000 patients, analyzing 409 files records. And I would note that almost 70% of my patients, not only 70%, but more than 90% were in the lowest level of energy, rated 1 out of 8 in all the internal massive organs. Here I will explain to you that the chakra are divided into 1 to 7. 1 corresponds to the liver, the second corresponds to the kidney, the third corresponds to the heart, the fourth to the lung, and 50 to the spleen. Here is the memory and concentration and the spiritual chakra. And as you can see in all the age groups, from the children to the older patients, all they were in the lowest level of energy, rated 1. This means that all internal organs that are responsible for the formation of yin and qi and blood, they were in the lowest level, meaning that all the patients, the majority of the patients, not all, the majority of the patients, more than 90%, were in the minimum level of energy. This means that the majority of patients I am treating here in Brazil, they are immune deficient, because energy means immunity. And this means that the immunity of our patients are very low. But this is not, if you take some laboratory exams to see, it cannot appear in the laboratory exams because this is in the energy level. And to have some alterations in the laboratory exams, you need to have more than 5 years of energy deficiencies to appear in the laboratory exams. And to illustrate this presentation, better explain the concepts of energy deficiency in patients with fatigue after SARS-CoV-2 infection, I will expose 3 case reports I treat myself in my clinic in Brazil. The first case is a 35-year-old female patient who had a SARS-CoV-2 infection in early August 2020, and she sought treatment with me because she felt very tired, discouraged, stressed, exhausted mentally and physically after this infection. In the first appointment, she told me she had this infection in the beginning of the second semester of 2020, And after 6 days of contact with the person who had the flu, she manifested a very cold, increasing tiredness, runny nose, and from the 7th day on, she was very weak, without energy, fatigued, short of breath, very difficult to breathe, and causing chest pain and a lot of cough. And she just wanted to sleep and she couldn't even get out of bed. And the 2-year-old daughter and her husband had a fever, which led her to take the exam, and that was positive for both her and her husband. And her daughter didn't do the exam, but probably she had to. She did not take any medication, high concentrated medication. But when she was getting worse, she took the homeopathic coroninum, called coroninum 30 ch at night, and the next day she noticed improvement. And her husband had a fever for more or less 10 days, a lot of body pain, and he took azithromycin and coroninum also, 30 ch, when he saw that he was very weak. And she used contraceptives and sometimes a homeopathic complex containing natrium muriaticum, kalium phosphoricum, and magnesium phosphoricum. And she had a little appetite. She didn't feel like eating, wanting to eat only more industrialized things and very sweet. And before SARS-CoV-2 infection, she also did exercise, swimming, and gym. And after this infection, she stopped exercising, but still feels like she doesn't have enough energy. She feels that she's very tired mentally and physically, debilitated with insomnia, without appetite, swelling, and weight gain, and without energy to work without sexual energy. I recommend the patient to do the Chinese nutritional therapy, counseling the patient to avoid dairy products, raw food, cold beverages, and sweets, to avoid the spleen pancreas deficiency, because this meridian is important to absorb the nutrients. And if they maintain the ingestion of these kinds of foods, the foods that she would be consuming would be not absorbing necessary to produce blood. That is why it's very important to counsel the patient to do not eat this kind of food, and also to avoid the ingestion of coffee, soda, and matcha tea, because these kinds of drinks can induce the kidney energy deficiency, very important to the production of yin and yang. As you saw in my first presentation, the balanced state between yin and qi and blood energy. And also to avoid this kind of food, chocolate, fried food, coconut, honey, eggs, and alcoholic beverages, and also melted cheese, because these kind of foods can induce the inflammatory process through the formation of internal heat. And this internal heat can increase the inflammatory process seen in the laboratory exams in the COVID-19 infection. And her treatment started with apex bloodletting that I showed in my first presentation. Also, I did in this patient, because when the patient has energy deficiencies, they can produce the energy heat retention. And that's why I'm taking out the heat and using the regular acupuncture points to balance the yin and yang, qi and blood energies. And also, because she was very tired and doesn't have energy, I use this moxibustion. Is a Chinese technique to through this heat, we can send the energy to the kidney meridian here to the patient to maintain the production of yin and yang. And also, I did the chakras in energy measurement. Chakras are the energy forces that we have inside our body, and they are responsible for the production of energy to all cells, systems, and organs working properly. And as I show you, each chakra is responsible for one element in the 5-element theory, and one element is responsible for one massive organs in TCM. And one massive organ in TCM is responsible for the functioning of one external sensorial organ, such as the liver is responsible for vision and eye, the kidney is responsible for the hearing process and ears, the heart is responsible for the communication and fun, and lung is responsible for the sense of smell, and the spleen is responsible for the sense of taste. And that is why in my other presentation, in other publication that I'm publishing, that the patient with SARS-CoV-2 infection, they have all this pattern of energy imbalances, deficiencies in all the chakras. And when the patient has anosmia and lack of sense of taste, this means that they don't have energy in the spleen and lung chakra, but also they don't have energy in all the other meridians too and chakras too. So in this case, I prescribed this kind of medication, are homeopathy medications, high diluted medications, to replenish the energy of these organs. One organ can begin to produce the energy to maintain her health. And for example, the liver and the lung is responsible for the production and distribution of energy of qi, and that is why it's important to tone these organs with using phosphorus and silicia. And to production of yin and yang, it is important to tone the second chakra using this kind of medication, natrium muriaticum. And to tone the third chakra, it is important to use sulfur, and to tone the spleen into calcarea barbon. This is a theory created by me, and it's published in this journal in July last year. It's entitled Constitutional Homeopathy of the 5 Elements based on Traditional Chinese Medicine, when I'm using homeopathy theory linking to traditional Chinese medicine. And using this kind of treatment, you can treat the root of the problem, that are the energy deficiencies and imbalances in the root level, and not just treating the symptoms in the leaf level. And the patient is doing the moxibustion every day, and after each session, she feels very more energized, more excited, and her physical, emotional, and sexual tiredness have improved very much. And she found the moksha essential for her improvement, and reported that one of the days she did the moksha, there was a lot of very important meetings that touched her emotionally, and after this moksha therapy, she didn't have any problems in the meeting, and everything did very well. And after this treatment, even in situations of stress and irritation, she was able wasn't able to be emotionally affected. And also she reported that the day other than the treatment, she feels weaker. Now the second case report is a 67-year-old male patient. This patient had a past history of cancer, prostate cancer. He's my dentist. He had the cancer, and he had the problem in the kidney since he was 20 years old. He lose a protein in the urine, and he had the hypertension too. And on the afternoon of this first day of September last year, he started to have a back pain. On the second day, he felt his nose pop and the pain in the back continued. And in the morning of the third day, the nose and the throat were worse, and he did the test and came positive to SARS-CoV-2 infection. And the other infectious disease doctor prescribed ivermectin 3 days, azithromycin 4 days, and afterwards he received corticosteroids for more 3 days. And he did a tomography that showed that about 10% of the infection of the lung. And after this medication, his temperature remained 37 to 38 degrees, but did not take any specific medicine to lower the fever. And in the second week, after 7 days, the only symptom he lost was the temperature between 37 degrees. And after 15 days, he was discharged to work again. And he returned to work after 18 days of the beginning of the infection. And when he went back to work, he felt that he woke up well. But in the afternoon, from 2 p.m., his energy started to fall, and he felt sleepy, tired, and bad head. And even though about this, he was thinking to stop working because he was feeling very tired, and he didn't want even to eat. And as he is my dentist, I went to his clinic at that week, and he told me that he was very fatigued after having this infection, and he was already my patient since 2018. And before, in this period, I did the chakras energy measurement that were all in the minimum level, and he began to treat in 2018 the chakras energy with the medication that I told you in the case report 1. And I prescribed the homeopathy in the bigger potence because he used the lower potence in the past. And his medical, I told you the medical history he had in the past. And after 3 days after start this treatment with homeopathies, he was feeling very well. And he, in the patient's own words, managing to work normally again. Now I would like to begin to present the third case report. It's a 17-year-old female patient. She had this infection, SARS-CoV-2 infection, without any clinical symptoms. And she found out that she had the disease after having symptoms of weakness, apathy, shortness of breath, about 30 days. And the feeling of low pressure and a racing heart. And she did the blood test in the hospital that confirmed that she had already passed through the contagious phase of the disease. And her parents looked for a dermatologist, and she started to supplement iron and vitamin B12. As the patient became vegan since May 2020, and the doctor thought it could be on different menu that she is feeling weak. And even though she used this supplement, the symptoms only got worse, and she went to the emergency room of the city hospital several times to try to understand what was happening to her. And at the last appointment, she underwent several tests, blood x-ray, echocardiogram, and was medicated with anti-allergic and corticosteroids too. And she went to the pneumologist, and he prescribed another anti-allergic medication, plus a few days of corticosteroids again, and asked her to use inhaled capsules of 30 days before returning to the next appointment. She started treatment, and after 3 days, the symptom remained the same or worse. And her stomach began to feel pain too. And I instructed the patient to do only acupuncture and oxybustion in the 5 fingers below the navel every day, and discontinue all the allopathic medication. I will show you why I did this procedure, and also measure the chakras, which showed that they were all without energy, with the exception of the 7th chakra that was normal. And her medical history includes asthma since she was 2 years old, using for a long period allopathic medicine such as corticosteroids. And only after she started using homeopathy, gradually she showed a significant improvement. And after her 13 years old, when she got a cold, her asthma symptoms were very mild, and she didn't even need to take inhalation and so on. And I prescribed the homeopathy according to this theory I showed you in the first case report, and also crystal-based medication. These medications need to be used for a period of 1 year or more. And also her chakras energy I show you were in the minimum level of energy. But as I show you, the majority of all the patients that are having SARS-CoV-2 infection, they have chakras energy deficiencies, and that is why it's very important to treat after this treatment the replenishment of the chakras energy to replenish this energy that they were before SARS-CoV-2. And this medication I'm using to prevent this SARS-CoV-2 infection, because I using this kind of medication, I'm improving the chakras energy, and using this kind of reasoning, I am improving the immune system of the patient and improving the Zen key of the patient. That's the lack of energy in the 2nd chakra that is responsible for the protection of the body against the invasion of the external pathogenic factor in this SARS-CoV-2 infection. And also I did the Chinese dietary nutrition, the same as orientated in the case 1 and 2. And after 3 days of treatment, the patient has already had a significant improvement. And after 8 days from the start of treatment, all the symptoms mentioned above practically disappear completely in the words of the patient's mother. And she continued with medicine based on crystal, acupuncture, moxibustion, and homeopathy too. And here's to show you that Western medicine is treating in the leaf level, but in this presentation, to treat the fatigue SARS-CoV-2 infection, we need to treat the root of the tree that are usually not seen by the naked eye, and we need only to know that this tree don't have energy, leading to the majority of the symptoms and disease in the leaf level when you measure the energy of these internal organs. And the cornerstone of this treatment, all these 3 case reports came from the patient that I treated in 2006. I won't repeat again. It was the patient with leg pain and glaucoma that I presented in the first presentation. And here's to show you that the majority of this patient, the balanced state is the state that we need to achieve in all the treatments. In this case, when treating fatigue, we need to treat the yin-yang disharmony, because the yin-yang disharmony can lead to many manifestation of symptoms, and that is why we need to achieve this balanced state to achieve health again. And here's to show you the balance between yin and qi and blood that we need to achieve in all the treatments. And if the patient has some energy deficiencies in yin or yang or chia blood or a combination of these deficiencies could have the formation of internal heat that is responsible in Western medicine for the formation of some disease such as anxiety, panic syndrome, dermatitis, infectious process, diabetes, hypertension, cancer, and many other diseases came from these energy imbalances and the production of heat retention. And this is to show you the different perspective from the internal organs according to 5 elements. They are one element is generating the next element by the generation cycle, and one element can control the functioning of one element in the control cycle. And here is to show you that the medications I show you, the homeopathy medications, need to be given in the sequence of the generation cycle. And when, for example, if you begin to treat the lung using silica, you need to give natrium muriaticum, then phosphorus, and sulfur, and calcaric carbonic in this sequence of the generation cycle. And it depends, the kind of medication will depend on the results that you did the radiesthesia, because not all patients have this deficiency in all those organs. But if there are patients in the past, it was very common to have energy or in the organs, and you don't need to treat in the past all the organs. But nowadays, as I show you, the majority of patients do not have energy in any organ. That's why you need to treat all the internal organs to achieve health. And here is to show you the study that are correlating the chakras with the 5-element theory. It was published in this journal. And here is one publication among the mechanisms of electromagnetic fields influencing the body, and these electromagnetic waves can reduce the vital energy of these patients. I think it's the major influence in all patients all over the world, leading to this lack of energy in the chakras energy centers, and leading to the immunosuppression and they are immunosuppressive nowadays, the majority of the patients. And here's Hippocrates' quote: "The manifestation of the disease is on the body's own reactions against the external pathogenic factors. And in every infectious process, there's a fight for energy inside our body to try to eliminate the external pathogenic factors there, that is the SARS-CoV-2, causing the consumption of this energy that's already in the reserve to occur." And here's to show you that the lung is the first chakra, the first massive organ that the SARS-CoV-2 infection can influence. And the second chakra is the spleen. That is why the patient can have anosmia and lack of taste, because these are the first chakras that is affected by this infection. And also the kidney, if the kidney is not don't have energy, it's very common the patient to have dyspnea, but due to the kidney energy deficiency, because the lung sends energy to the kidney. And when the kidney doesn't have energy to receive this energy transmitted to the lung, the patient will, this transmission from the lung to the kidney will be blocked, and the patient will have this sensation of dyspnea, but it's not due to the infection process, but due to the lack of energy that the patient has. And as I show you, all the chakras were in the lowest level of energy. And here only to show you the importance of the zinc key in the protection and the protection against the invasion of the SARS-CoV-2. And the zinc key is the energy that corresponds to the second chakra in the kidney. And the kidney energy depends on in the conception, the kidney energy of the parents, and also the type of the diet that the patient is receiving, and also all the influence of the excessive work, excessive of sexual functions, all can reduce the zinc key or to don't have a proper sleeping process during the night when the energy of the kidney is replenished. When the patient has insomnia, the zinc could be reduced and the propensity to have SARS-CoV-2 infection increase. And here's how to show you again why I'm using high diluted medication, because high diluted medication can improve the organic process. And the patient who have SARS-CoV-2 infection and is taking high concentrated medication, they are reducing even more the vital energy, leading to more complications. In this case, can have more inflammatory process, because if you reduce the vital energy, you are creating more formation of internal heat that is responsible for the inflammatory process inside the body. And that is why it is very important, if you can give the patients a high diluted medication, it's much better to don't induce more complication in these patients. And that's why I'm using homeopathy. And in the coronino used by the second case report is homeopathy made by the secretion of patients infected with SARS-CoV-2. And some doctors in Brazil are prescribing this medication, and I use it only for not in some patient in having a very good results. And here is the scheme adopted for this pharmacy in Brazil, that for prevention, you use 30 CH. For prophylaxis, you use 200 CH. And for the treatment, you use in the treatment you can use 200 CH, 20 drops every 12 hours, 3 to 7 days. And now to treat the fatigue, I always use moxibustion, because this is a very important tool in Chinese medicine to improve the internal energy and improving these fatigue symptoms in these patients. And here is a table showing you that the progression from health to disease are divided in 5 phases. Only in the phase 4, the Western medicine are doing diagnosis when there are alteration in the laboratory exams. And in phase 1, 2, 3, they don't have alteration, but this not mean that the patient doesn't have anything. This means that the alteration that the patient has are in the energy level, and only showing you that if the patient do not have alterations, you need to treat the energy deficiencies, very common in these patients. And here's to showing you when you do some laboratory exams, you cannot see the energy of this patient. For example, if you take ultrasound of the kidney, the doctor will say, oh, the ultrasound is normal, the kidney is normal. But in the energy point of view, one could be very full of energy and one empty of energy. And that's why when you take the picture of the organ, you cannot see the energy of the organ. That's why we need to measure the energy too, to see if this organ is working or not. Here's to show you that to treat fatigue for post-SARS-CoV-2 infection, it is very important to have two medicines in the mind to you to understand better what is happening in this kind of patients. And according to Hippocrates, it's far more important to know what person has a disease than to know what the disease the person has. In this quote is very important. He's saying that it's very important to treat the patient and not the disease. It's very important to treat the root of the patient that are in the energy level and not the disease in the leaf level. And not only to show you that homeopathy and acupuncture in Brazil are recognized by the Federal Medical Council since 1980 and 1995. And the conclusion of this study is that patients with chronic fatigue after SARS-CoV-2 infection have internal organ energy deficiencies prior to SARS-CoV-2 infection and the treatment, and they can aggravate the fatigue symptoms after the treatment received and improve their fatigue symptoms, replenish these internal organs energies, leading to an important improvement of the fatigue symptoms using high diluted medication according to constitutional homeopathy of the 5 elements based on traditional Chinese medicine. According to Hippocrates, natural forces within us are the true healers of the disease. Thank you for your attention. If you have any question, I will be very happy to answer you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for your presentation, Dr. Huang Weiling. So, yeah, do we have any questions? I guess there are no questions. Anyways, thanks a lot for your time. And yeah, it was really
Yeah, you are.
informative. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, moving on to our next presentation, uh, we have Dr. Ana Carolina dos Santos Valente from Fundação Oswaldo Cruz, Brazil. So, yes,
Hello.
doctor, please do.
I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah, please.
Is it showing my screen? The presentation?
It is showing.
Okay. Okay. Hello to all present at the webinar. My name is Ana Carolina Valente, and I'm here to present the paper entitled A New Methodology for Sampling Black Flies for Entomological Surveillance of Onchocerciasis in Brazil, conducted at Laboratório de Simulias de Oncocercose, IOC, Fiocruz, at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Black flies are Jupiter insects belonging to the family Simulidae. Females of the family need a blood meal in order to deposit their eggs. This biting habit makes them the vectors of various pathogens, including those causing onchocerciasis and mononellosis. Both pathogens are found in the north part of Brazil, especially at the Amazon. Onchocerciasis, also known as river blindness, are found mostly in Africa, but also in Americas and the Yemen. In the Americas, only one focus remains with ongoing transmission, which is the binational focus of the Amazon, in the border of Venezuela and Brazil, in the South America. This disease is classified as an emerging and neglected disease, and has been within the priorities of the Brazilian sanitary authorities since 1991, as a signatory country of the Onchocerciasis Elimination Program for the Americas, OEPA. The strategy adopted by Brazil to eliminate this disease as a health problem has included the Mass Drug Administration, MDA, of ivermectin twice a year for 10 to 15 years with a therapeutic coverage of 85% of the eligible population in all endemic communities of the region. According to the World Health Guidelines, to stop NMDA and begin the process of onchocerciasis elimination acknowledgement, one of the criteria is the 150 PCR testing in black flies. The PCR technique detects the presence of infective larvae L3 stages in female black flies by processing the heads of biting females through PCR. To determine the status of the transmission in the area, a minimal amount of 1,000 black flies collected from the transmission zone must be tested and be negative to represent elimination of transmission. One of the main issues regarding this technique is capturing the anthropophilic flies with quality and safety for both bait, collector, and the sample. With this in mind, a study to introduce a new methodology for sampling black flies in Brazil was performed. The present study consisted in the evaluation of the effectiveness and efficiency of the mosquito trap technology in the entomological surveillance of onchocerciasis vectors in Brazil in order to provide an efficient and safe collection method for female black flies. In this study, we selected two villages at the Brazilian hyperendemic area of onchocerciasis, Romoche and Tirei, situated in the highlands of the Serra do Parima, approximately 30 kilometers from Chitei, a sentinel area for onchocerciasis and located at the Venezuela-Brazil border. Both villages' populations are assisted by the Brazilian Ministry of Health. This area features a high black flies vector density and large migrations of the local population, in addition to being the most devastated by gold mining activities. Aiming to compare the effectiveness of the mosquitent, 4 capture stations were settled, 2 for each capture method: human landing catch, HLC, and mosquitent. 2 capture stations were located at Romoche, and 2 capture stations were located at Tirei. All of these stations were located at least 100 meters away from the breeding site. This distance were determined to ensure that the captured flies were indeed females seeking for a blood meal and not newly emerged specimens. Each couple of capture stations were arranged at a 50 meters equidistance at each other of the selected areas. Collections were carried out by 2 collectors at each capture station during 5 consecutive days in May 2016, in the morning from 7 to 11:50 a.m. and in the afternoon from 1 to 5:50 p.m., with 50-minute catching intervals and 10-minute pauses, totaling 10 hours of capture per day for 2 collectors per station. Both methodologies were evaluated simultaneously. To minimize interference between the methods, the positions of the capture technicians were changed daily, avoiding positional bias and decreasing the bait effect per individual. This arrangement was designed to allow simulant vectors to choose between HLC and the mosquitent placing the methods in an equal supply position in the process. Captured females were put in ethanol PA, and specimens were counted, identified, and conditioned at a 20 degrees Celsius after separation from the other insects captured during the experiment. Specific identification was based on morphological characters using a stereo microscope and a dichotomous key. All sample data were recorded on field and triage identification records at Laboratório de Simulides e Oncocercose. The mosquito trap has an innovative design with measures as shown in the slide. The combination is of a white multimillo polyester mesh with a human bait lock chamber protected in the center of the trap, secured by a mooring to a white tent gazebo, which is 3 by 3 by 2.5 meters in height. All data analyses were performed using GraphPad Prism version 7 software package. It is very important to remember that all research protocols and procedures were reviewed and approved by the Ethics Committee of Brazil. All experiments were performed by trained volunteers who read and signed required informed consent documentation. The team that participated in the field work was treated with ivermectin 1 week before performing the captures. A total of 10,855 females black flies were captured by both methodologies after 5 days. 7 species were captured: Simulio incrustatum, Simulio guianense, Simulio oiapoquense, Simulio exíguo, Simulio metálico, Simulio ocráceo, and Simulio minúsculo. The most abundant species was Simulio incrustatum, with a total of 10,728 specimens collected, and this was as expected for the season for the area. And the least abundant species was Simulio minúsculo, with only 1 specimen collected during the 5 days. With the mosquito trap, 7,367 specimens were collected, and as for the HLC method, only 3,488 black flies were captured. Bite patterns during the day were analyzed separately at the 2 study locations, considering all black flies captured. At Homoshi, the bite activity of simulid females showed a bimodal pattern, with one activity peak in the early morning between 7 and 8:50 a.m. and one in the afternoon between 4 and 5:50 p.m. At Tirei, the bite activity was homogeneously distributed throughout the day. When comparing the total amount of black flies captured per day, the mosquito trap was more efficient than the HLC method in Homoshi, when the mosquito showed a means of 799.4 black flies per day against 217.6 black flies per day with the HLC. At Tirei, there was no significant difference between both methodologies. The mosquito trap performance was similar to the HLC method at both Romorchi and Tirei, regarding the number of captured individuals of the main vector Simulio guianense per day. When comparing the anthropophilic profile of the black flies between the mosquito and the HLC catches, results indicate that the percentage of captured specimens maintains similar seasonal fluctuation at both Romorchi and Tirei, except between 11 and 11:50 a.m. at Romorchi and between 4 and 4:50 p.m. at Tirei, when there was a difference between the capture methods. The gold standard for capturing black flies is with humans serving as baits. But for ethical reasons and from a perspective of possible health risks to the capturing technician, the use of it is prohibited in Brazil, according to Brazilian legislation. It is essential that new methods for capturing black flies be used in order to provide safety for both collector and bait, and also provide good quality samples. The results found in this study demonstrate the feasibility of using the mosquito trap in capturing anthropophilic black flies in an endemic onchocerciasis area in the Brazilian Amazon. This was proven as efficient, sensitive, and rigorous method to capture the human onchocerciasis vectors, as well as profitable and as widely deployable as HLC, not only regarding the amount of female black flies captured, but also when the number of the main vector captured Simulio guianense is considered. We emphasize that the results of this study demonstrate that the mosquito capture methodology will not interfere in the capture of 6,000 specimens of Simulio guianense required for the onchocerciasis monitoring in the endemic area, according to WHO guidelines. The results with the mosquito trap demonstrated better performance and high reliability when compared to HLC, allowing for the capture a greater number of black flies with the same effectiveness as this traditional method. Thank you for the opportunity of presenting our work, our paper here at the webinar. Any doubts, any questions? The emails are listed on the slide. Just contact us. Have a good day.
Thanks a lot for your video presentation, Dr. Ana Carolina. So yeah, do we have any questions? I guess there are no questions. Anyways, thanks a lot for your time and your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you. So moving on to our next presentation, we have Mr. Manu Singhai from ISF College of Pharmacy, India.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
My screen visible?
Yeah, everything is perfect. Yeah, you can start with your presentation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just a minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, good evening, everyone. Here I am Manu Singhai. Effect of herbal bigel with special emphasis on psoriasis. This is topic of discussion of today. So, proceeding with the same, the objective of my study was to review and explore the currently herbal remedy used and the historically used herbal remedies in the treatment of psoriasis. Psoriasis has a significant impact not only on the patient health but also on a patient quality of life sometimes, profoundly altering their everyday life. And it can occur at any age and is the most common in the age group 50 to 70 years old persons. And psoriasis, fast facts, we are proceeding with the same. So more than 8 million Americans have psoriasis. About 60% of people with psoriasis say it is a large problem in their life. And psoriasis usually begins between ages 15 and 25, but can happen at any age. There are several types of psoriasis, and plague psoriasis is the most common. One in 3 people with psoriasis develops psoriatic arthritis. So now what is psoriasis? It is an inflammatory and hyperplastic disease of skin caused by erythema and elevated scaly plaques. Course of disease often unpredictable. It is a chronic and uncommunicable disease. It is a global and a serious global problem. So with the introduction, psoriasis manifests an itchy and a sore plaque on the skin, mostly located on the knees, elbows, scalp, palm, or soles. Psoriasis can occur anywhere on the body, but most commonly on the elbows, knees, soles, palm, and may also affect the toenails, fingernails, soft tissues of the genitals. The most common pattern seen in patient is heat in the blood. So here is the graphical representation of distribution of psoriasis severity. So the mild cases are around 65%, which has been defined as a percentage of body surface area. Psoriasis severity index, PSI, and dermatology life quality index, that is DLQI, moderate to severe psoriasis, was defined by the same group. So moderately are there 25%, and for mild and severe for the same. Current chemotherapy and systemic medications are also there. So epidemiology of the psoriasis, it commonly skin disorder, which is around 0.3 to 2.5%. So psoriasis affects men and women of all ages. The published data on the prevalence of psoriasis in countries vary between 0.09% and 11.4%, and many of the most developed countries also. So coming to the types of the psoriasis, there are majorly 6 types of the psoriasis in the global literature. So the plaque psoriasis, which is a most common type of psoriasis, and it can be itchy and painful. Though these can even appear on the inside of your mouth or your genital part. Then coming to the Gote psoriasis, which is also a bacterial infection. Some people with this have type have only one outbreak that clear up with without treatment, while others continue to have outbreaks over the time. And so next, coming to the pustular psoriasis. Firstly, it comes to your skin becomes red and tender to the when touching. Then within hours, pus-filled blisters appears. These blisters may clear up and some come back from time to time. Then in addition to itching, pustular psoriasis can cause fever, chills, diarrhea, kidney and liver problem, and many other symptoms. Scalp psoriasis, the main symptom is a dry, itchy scalp, which is you may also notice flakes in your hair and on your shoulders. Scratching from these symptoms can also cause bleeding. Nail psoriasis, nails can get weak and crumble, and they may even separate from your nail bed. Psoriatic arthritis, this is according to the Journal of American Academy of Dermatology. They have mentioned that joint pain, stiffness, and swelling are the main symptoms of psoriatic arthritis. And for the last one, that is inverse psoriasis. Inverse psoriasis may cause patches of red irritated skin in body folds such as the armpit, under the breast. It causes smooth patches of red inflamed skin that worsen with the friction and sweating. It may be triggered by fungal infection also. So these are the types of psoriasis. So the graphical representation for the types of psoriasis that these are several presentations. The most common type of psoriasis in our study was found to be the plague psoriasis, that is 85.1%, which is mentioned in the blue color, followed by the next Gotte psoriasis, that is 2.9%, ethmodermic psoriasis, that is 1.7, and pustular psoriasis, that is 1%, and so on. And other less types, palmoplantar non-pustular psoriasis, even with 0.4%. Now the symptoms of the psoriasis, so majorly scaling found to be seen in the psoriasis disease, and then itching, skin redness, tightness of the skin, bleeding, burning sensation, fatigue, and others. So the triggering factors for the psoriasis are mentioned here, that infections from the bacteria are from streptococcus, or viral infections are also there. Skin trauma, psychological stress, drugs, majorly lithium beta blockers and all. Sunburns may also triggering factor for the psoriasis. Metabolic factors, calcium deficiency, and other major deficiencies, hormonal factors, and many others. Common sites that are affected by the psoriasis can affect any part of the body, typically scalp, elbow, knees, sacrum, and many other parts of the body. So for the diagnosis and management of psoriasis, chronic inflammatory disease of skin T cells mediated disorders with many other NCDs, and classical presentation characterized by red, scaly plaques, rashes are to be seen. Management should address both medical and psychological aspects, and treatments include topical therapy, phototherapy, systemic and biological agents, and many other medications are also there. So now the point is that what actions we can take to improve the life of people who are suffering from the psoriasis. So ensuring care for patients with psoriasis is included in universal health coverage scheme. So for the same, the providing coordinated people-centered care are there, and training for the health professionals, mainly and especially in primary care settings, and reducing the stigma and discrimination between the peoples, and improving access to essential medicines for psoriasis, then empowering and giving awareness to the patients and their peoples, and priorities areas for the research, so we can have improvement in the lives, and major key actions we can take for empowering the life settings of the people. Then the treatment goals. So the treatment goals for the psoriasis is topical therapy, phototherapy, other medications, combinations of treatments, combinations of drugs and uh, injections and all. So the goal of the treatment is to find and specify imbalance that root cause of the psoriasis, and to treat it completely. So majorly I have working on the topical therapy. That topical therapies typically come in form of creams, shampoos, lotions, gels, or ointments, and many other forms. So examples of the topical therapy include corticosteroids such as hydrocortisone, triamcinolone, clobesterol, salicylic acids, which are used in shampoos reducing scale on scalp, and calcineurin inhibitors, such as tacrolimus, reduce plaques and inflammation. Vitamin D slows skin cell growth, which is also take major role in the treatment of psoriasis. And treatment of psoriasis is also based on the controlling the symptoms. Topical and systemic therapies are also available in practice, and the symptoms were also seen reducing day by day when topical therapies are used. So, for the preparation of Bigel, few of the materials and methods were used. That aloe vera extract we can have obtained, we can easily obtain from the Ayurveda Research Center. For preparation of the gel, we can have Caropol, HPMC, and PVP also. So for the method of preparation, depending upon the distribution of both phases, for the bigel preparation, you can have organogel and hydrogel within bigels. These symptoms can be classified in three types. That is organogel in hydrogel type, there is hydrogel in organotype, and then bicontinuous also, which is matrix in matrix type. Then we have method of preparation for the bigel. So one of the phase is oleogel and other is hydrogel, which is mixing at 800 rpm to form bigel. So the homogeneous mixture, which forms a smooth gel by applying a definite shear speed and a temperature. The mixture then either forms gel or shows phase separation on cooling to room temperature, which is then formation of a bigel, stable bigel. Then after the preparation of gel, we can have its evaluation by checking tube inversion test. And so how we can use it or apply it. So applying aloe vera gel on your body area, affected body area, after bathing, and or we can have also supplementary material, like we have drinking 10 ml of aloe vera juice twice a day, preferably in the morning or before breakfast and in the night after dinner. And the major advantages of bigel are it's improved by stability as compared to the emulsions that containing oil phase or water phase, and then creams, emulgels, hydrogels, and organogels also there for the treatment of psoriasis, which makes it a potent carrier for the pharmaceutical and cosmetic application. Then we have some results of the prepared gel, which were evaluated for physical tests. It was inferred from the result that Bigel's formulations were good in appearance and homogeneity. Herbal remedies for the treatment of psoriasis disease to overcome the adverse effects. Prepared Bigels have an antagonistic effect and bioavailability of drugs, which found physically stable at room temperature. So, on concluding this, psoriasis is undoubtedly distressing, affecting individuals are typically otherwise healthy and thus well suited to thoughtful outpatient care. All formulations showed great inhibition of psoriasis vulgaris, which is psoriasis disease. Thus, bigels with aloe vera are promising doses form, was seen in the literature and the studies going on for psoriasis. The bigel of aloe vera contains about 75 nutrients and to be proved a good remedy. And many of the research studies are going for the same in the clinical studies and also in the laboratory point of view, for which the results of the study clearly indicate that promising potential of aloe vera gel, or we can have organogel hydrogel as an alternative to the conventional doses form, like we have creams, ointments, and others, which play a major role in the treatment of psoriasis and treatment of the diverse types of psoriasis. So here, broad spectra era and precision era timeline for the evaluation of systemic therapy for the psoriasis. We are talking from since 1950. So many of the drugs, or we can have say antibodies are developed for the treatment of psoriasis. Nowadays, biosimilars are also working on the treatment for the psoriasis. So it is vast era of the research, and here are the products I have mentioned, major products for the treatment of psoriasis, that is Dermalix, uh, Wild Naturals cream, that is eczema and psoriasis cream. Porcelain ointment is also used, and for the treatment of psoriasis therapy, enzyme 4 targeted cell technology is also in the market, which is very effective for the treatment of psoriasis. And now working on the Bigel, we can have product of it also. So from my side, this is for the today. Thank you for your watching, and stay safe, stay healthy. Hello.
I'm sorry, it was on mute. I'm really sorry. So yeah, do we have any questions? Anyways, okay. I hope there are no questions. Thanks a lot for your presentation, Mr. Manu Singhai. So yeah, and also thanks for your time. So yeah, due to the change of schedule, we'll be playing the other two posters tomorrow for the day two session. So with this, we are going to end our day one session. So we'll all meet you tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. in GMT in London time. Thank you. Have a great day ahead. If you're having any queries, please do reach us through email or anything. We can help you out with that. Or you can also ask us now so that, yeah, we'll help you out. So, yeah, as there are no questions or anything, so yeah, we'll be ending this session today and we'll get back again tomorrow.